Hello, Wally. Thanks
Hello.
for taking the time to speak with me here.
Hi, Dylan.
So, my first question, what does EDA stand for? I'm kidding. So obviously the show's just begun. I mean, what have you seen? What have you heard so far? What are your first impressions?
So I think the thing that overrides all the themes are the implications that this really powerful node at 322820, this set of technologies is placing on the EDA industry and the tools, flows, IP environment required to take advantage of that node.
Mm-hmm. So what are the opportunities for EDA at the 20 nanometer node that may be different than they were at previous nodes?
Well, the product development for 20 nanometers has largely occurred. Now we're in the deployment phase as we see designs moving to market. Examples of things that are different. People used to view emulation as a specialty technology if you were doing graphics chips or something. Now, most of the big chips are looking at emulation for verification of both the hardware and the software. Other examples, physical verification. We didn't really verify things for reliability or for electrical overstress. Now, this generation means most people will have to, and they will.
Okay. And what about, now I understand there's going to be a 20 nanometer double patterning is going to be a reality. My understanding is that has serious implications for the place and route. What about other aspects of the tool flow? Is that a factor for other
Certainly
tools?
Double patterning really takes on a strong role at 20 nanometers, but the software handles the routing problems well and the manufacturing problems as well. So it's a new awareness required, it's a new capability of the software, but by itself, people will adapt to that pretty quickly.
Okay. And then the other thing that's happening or going on now is the transition to 3D ICs. In what sense is this an opportunity for EDA?
Well, it's an opportunity for EDA companies to support a new technology. I doubt that it'll be a big incremental revenue opportunity for EDA, but we have already released 3D design and analysis tools for most of our flow. We've had it for design for tests now for well over a year, and it takes us through 3D for years to come. Physical verification, analysis, all 3D tools are in the market. So the areas where they're still evolving are things like thermal and stress conditions in routing, package routing, things like that. And even that, the tools are there, they just need to evolve.
Okay. So, I mean, for EDA's vendors, you know, this is one of those things that's not maybe going to lead to a huge boost in sales, but it's the kind of thing that you have to do to support your customers because otherwise they won't be your customers anymore.
So our customers have to keep up with the decline in cost per transistor, and it's almost independent of Moore's law. If it's cheaper to stack the die than to shrink the features, that's what our customers will do. And of course, we will be there to make it possible for our customers to do that well.
Okay. All right, so let's look into the crystal ball here a little bit. 10 years from now, let's say we're at DAC, what would that be, 2022? So first question, will there still be a DAC in 2022?
I'm quite confident there will still be a DAC.
So do you anticipate that the structure of the EDA industry with the 3 large companies and the many startups will be fundamentally the same? Is there a high likelihood or a reasonable likelihood of some shakeup there, or do you think it's probably going to be the way it is at that point?
So take you back 35 years, computer vision, Calma, Applicon together, they had about 75% of the market. Daisy Mentor Valid, close to the same for almost 20 years, 15 years. Mentor Cadence Synopsys, combined market share has been remarkably constant for the last 15 years, about 75% of the total. So to a first approximation, if you don't know what's going to happen, then the future will be an extension of the past.
Right, okay. And what about do you still anticipate at that point there'll be a vibrant startup community with a lot of people trying to to make their way in EDA?
So despite the paucity of venture-funded fabless startups and EDA startups, we have 27 new exhibitors here at DAC this year, and a lot of them are angel-funded. A lot of them are self-funded. And so where there is innovation, need, change, there will be companies to take advantage of it. And despite what looks like consolidation in the semiconductor industry, in fact, it's just a manufacturing consolidation. The actual semiconductor industry is deconsolidating rather than consolidating. So the answer to your question in a short form is yes, there will continue to be companies.
Okay. And we're, I guess, pulling it back to maybe a little closer to now, I mean, what do you see over the next several years for EDA? There's this, I think, perception that EDA is kind of stagnant in terms of growth. I mean, do you anticipate good years ahead? Do you think that the future looks good for some of the reasons that we've talked about here?
So after a very slow growth in the last decade, we just passed a near record year at 16% growth for EDA revenue this past year, including the broader base of IP and services, and 14% for just the tools and support. So it's been a great year. We're off to great acceleration, and with a powerful node coming, we're going to see at least a couple years of accelerated design activity, because there are going to be a lot of wafers available at the 2820 kind of range, and people will have to do more and more design, including redesigns, just to take advantage of that low cost.
Okay. And what do you anticipate, I guess, pulling it forward even to now? What do you anticipate to be some of the bigger things that we're going to be talking about this week or hearing about?
Well, the biggest thing, as I mentioned earlier, I think the implications of 28 nanometer on the total system. Mm-hmm. So it means you really have to get serious about developing and debugging the embedded software, and that means for most big chips, you're going to do a high-level design in ESL to get the architecture stable, and you're going to use emulation. And neither of those were really a standard part of the flow in the past, and you see everywhere around here, people, emulation, ESL, big things happening. That'll be a big part of what happens in the next year that's hot right now.
Okay. All right, just first impressions. I mean, I know it's only been, an hour or two since the doors opened, but do you feel like, can you characterize what you've seen so far as upbeat, or is it busy compared to what you thought it would be? Are there more people, less people?
A lot of energy. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, new exhibitors, strong growth in pre-registration for DAC this year, and of course we're back in San Francisco, which helps a lot. But you have a lot of people who are under a lot of pressure to do more design, do it better, do it quicker, and so they're here looking for solutions.
Great. All right, well, thanks. How many DACs is this for you?
Miami was my first, 82, I think.
82, okay, so quite a while. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Okay.